Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Tuesday morning to you all. I hope you guys are waking up and feeling awesome out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day. And I hope everyone's been having a great week out there so far. We got a good bit to discuss in this morning's video, and the first thing we'll cover is today's weather, as we could have some active weather developing later on this afternoon into this evening. Severe weather chances will be there, especially across some areas of the central and southern, really the high plains. Kind of a conditional threat, but if any storms do form, which I think they will in areas, they could be quite intense. So we'll speak on that. We'll break down the southeast, also spend a little extra time on you folks as I'm watching two specific areas that have a higher risk for some of these storms to hit strong to severe limits. And then we'll break down the rest of the country like we always do. After that, we'll move forward and we'll talk about what's to come. We'll speak a little bit on the next couple days, but there is one specific time frame in the 6 to 8 day kind of time frame that could pose a higher risk of severe weather. I'm talking about like an enhanced risk or higher, something that could be just more of a significant severe weather episode. But we'll speak on the days leading up to that time frame, speak on the pattern in general, what's driving everything. You know, we always like to nerd out with you guys on these videos, and then we'll round the video off with a Bible devotion. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it, and if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling this morning. So this is what's going on right now as you're waking up. We do have some, I would say, much needed rain, especially the further east you go and portions of the southeast. We're waking up to rumbles of thunder across the mountains of Tennessee, North Carolina, Georgia. Some heavy rain falling out there across northern Alabama, starting to sneak into the southern Cumberland Plateau. A little bit of rain shower activity in the Tidewater, a little bit of rain out in Cape Cod. We got some rain up in like Atlantic Canada, stuff like that. We got a little swirl up here in eastern Canada that's responsible for some of this rain across New England. We do have some heavy rain and thunderstorm activity crossing the Midwest right now this morning. Maybe some rumbles of thunder with that, flashes of lightning, and a little bit of another spin up here across the upper Midwest. We got some snow up here in Canada, maybe a little bit of snow flying around up here in northwestern sections of North Dakota. Let me know if you're tuning in, you're seeing that. Just light, modest flow across the country. Nothing too crazy one way or the other. Most of the flow is in the northern section of the country, but there's going to be just enough flow over the next few days across the southern tier of the country to get to allow for some strong to severe thunderstorm activity. So moving past this, watches, warnings, advisories, it's pretty quiet out there. There's not a whole lot of anything going on. Now, there's probably just some special weather statements, some advisories out there that's not shown on the screen. Sometimes Pivotal Weather doesn't show everything, but when I look at WeatherWise, the other site that I use, which is free by the way, sometimes it doesn't show everything too, so I kind of have to flip-flop depending on what's going on. But some dense fog out there. I mean, some flood warnings as you know, the Mississippi Delta and the river continues to be high from all the rain we've seen in these areas over the last few weeks. But outside of that, it's pretty quiet. As far as the Storm Prediction Center outlook, there's multiple areas to watch. One is across the Carolinas. We're finally going to get some rain opportunities, some thunderstorm risk across the Carolinas, but some of these could pack a punch. Strong to severe storms as possible across North Carolina, areas of northern South Carolina. I mean, we'll kind of zoom into this area, the Greensboro, Raleigh-Durham area, Fayetteville, Charlotte, Rock Hill, down to Florence, and all of eastern North Carolina just about, except maybe far southeastern portions of the state, has a level 1 out of 5 marginal risk of severe weather. The other area to watch across the southeast and the south is the deep south, Louisiana, a very small section of eastern Texas, into the southern half of Mississippi, and a section of southwest Alabama has a level 1 marginal risk of severe weather. And then just if you live in the, the light green color, you do have a risk of thunderstorms today, and you can't rule out a strong to severe storm in those areas also. And just note that some of this information could change. I will note there's a marginal risk that extends all the way up to Chicago, and I think this is because of this energy moving through like Iowa right now and surrounding states. It could intensify later this morning as it gets closer to the Great Lakes region. So this could produce some gusty winds, maybe some small hail. But as we start to get into Kansas, like central Kansas, like Wichita, over to Dodge City, Woodard, Guyman, Altus, over to Amarillo, down to Lubbock, Midland, San Angelo, and just the western plains of Texas and the Panhandle and of Oklahoma and Texas, we do have a slight risk, level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather. And what's driving this? There is a bit of a tornado threat. This could increase. Tornado risk does include areas of New Mexico. So Clovis, Lubbock, Hobbs, down the Midland, Fort Stockton, even points south. 2% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location. We could have some beefy storms down here. I just don't think they're going to be widespread. But there is a 2% risk. This could upgrade to a 5% risk. A few days ago, the storms did produce down here as far as tornadoes, so we got to watch out. The wind threat, the entire slight risk area in the yellow has a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. And then the hail threat, we have a 15% risk in the slight area of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. Could get a hatch risk issued later today. We might, but right now there's no hatch risk. Hatch meaning a risk of significant severe weather. Nothing like that for today. Risk of flash flooding, just a couple areas to watch with at least a 5% risk of flash flood guidance being exceeded in these green areas. Not a big day of extreme heavy rainfall or anything like that. Let's speak on the southeast first. We will work our way to the south central U.S. There'll be a timestamp up for it if you just want to jump ahead. But the southeast, just a broad look at everything. H-Strip-R model picking up on a little bit of that energy. It's whiffing a little bit in northern Alabama, but it has the general picture here. When we start to get into midday, you see all this thunderstorm activity refiring across Alabama, northern Georgia, even southern areas of Tennessee. And as we start to get into this afternoon, we start to get the potential for some strong to severe thunderstorms across the Carolinas, widespread thunderstorm activity across northern Georgia, even Alabama, even some pop-up strong to severe storms across Mississippi. And then by the time we get into this evening, things begin to chill out a little bit, but we could wake up to some heavy rain across Georgia and the Carolinas. But I know I skimmed through that pretty quickly, so we'll take a closer look at Mississippi, Alabama, even sections of Georgia here. And this is this morning, not doing the best at picking up on the heavy rain falling across northern Alabama. But, we start to get into about lunchtime, 1 p.m., some pop-up strong, maybe severe thunderstorms could be ongoing around Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, points north up to Huntsville, Florence, Meridian down to Jackson. Hattiesburg could get some pop-up thunderstorms. But you can tell they're really hanging out along and just north of the Interstate 20 corridor, kind of north of Birmingham, Tuscaloosa. But listen, these models, as you guys know, are not grand conclusions. We don't know if this is exactly the way it's going to unfold, but just note that any of these thunderstorms could hit strong to severe limits. We start to get to 5 p.m. We start to get more thunderstorm activity closer to Jackson, a little bit south of the Birmingham, Tuscaloosa area. It does show some storms getting close to like Monroeville, Montgomery, and just scattered about. Literally, it's more so like a summer pattern down here, kind of pop up in nature. There will be flow in the atmosphere. They will be moving, but by the time they move, maybe for about an hour or two, they could be weakening, and then some more storms could pop up. We start to get into the overnight hours, and things begin to calm down a little bit, but still some pop-up downpours out here. And just a closer look at South Carolina and Georgia. We already got some storms up here in northern Georgia, the mountains of North Carolina, but by the time we get into about 2 p.m., some storms will become more widespread in like the Greenville-Spartanburg area. Could get some storms as far south as Atlanta. Storms will continue to be a risk of being there across northern Georgia. And we'll just have a lot more rain, I would say, in the upstate of South Carolina compared to the Midlands point south. I really think as we get into tomorrow, the Midlands down to the low country of South Carolina, it could be more of your day for rain opportunity. Trust me, I live here in Columbia right here, and we definitely need the rain. But as we're getting into this evening, just a lot of thunderstorm activity. It looks to be there across northern Georgia, but we start to get some pop-up activity kind of hanging out, between the Atlanta, Augusta, Columbia corridor. Could get some thunderstorms. It shows some downpours into the Columbia area later this evening. Has the potential to be there. But we start to get into the overnight hours. Calms down for a time, but then we're waking up So maybe some sort of boundary and a lot of heavy rain shower activity could be kind of cruising along this boundary from Atlanta to Columbia. So you'll be waking up to some heavy downpours across this area for tomorrow morning. And then North Carolina, this is really the area you want to watch for some strong to severe storms. The energy that's cruising across the mountains right now will try to refire. Stop it here. It's around 3 p.m. We got some stronger cells kind of in York County, near Rock Hill, Charlotte, up to Greensboro, the Raleigh area. Some storms could make it all the way to the NCVA line up here. But just watch out for any of these storms. It's around 5 p.m. They could hit strong to severe limits for sure. And storms could be quite intense, even kind of north and northeast of and east of Raleigh, all the way up to Norfolk and Virginia Beach. As we start to get later in the evening. And we have to watch some energy later at night too, but I don't think that'll hit severe limits. So just a closer look there at the southeast. But the northeast, I mean, there's not really anything to talk about. The energy you're dealing with right now in the form of rain and stuff, I mean, that'll clear out later this afternoon. By the time we get into this evening, it's the overnight hours. Not a whole lot going on, if anything. I mean, could get some showers in the southern areas of the Tidewater here. But outside of that, guys, it's pretty calm. But the south central U.S., just take a broad look at everything here, starting this morning, getting to about midday. Not a whole lot of anything going on. Louisiana getting some storms, as you can tell. I'll zoom into you guys here in a second. But we start getting some supercells. I mean, even northern Mexico here. Look at these supercells down here. Got a couple supercells developing here in southwestern Texas. And you notice they kind of get going, and then they don't last very long. And remember, there's a slight risk all the way up into Kansas, and there's nothing really firing up here in Kansas. And then by the time you get to the overnight hours, some storm activity continues to make its way west to east across central areas of Texas. And but guys, I mean, for the most part, the HRRR model's not the latest one, is not picking up on a whole lot of anything. But I will zoom into that area. Let's talk about Louisiana real quick for my folks tuning in. Take it to midday, could begin to get some thunderstorm activity, and there is a marginal risk in Louisiana, so some of these could, be strong to severe, but show some storms between Alexandria, Shreveport, Monroe, Louisiana, maybe a little action near Lake Charles, Lafayette. Start to get more pop-up strong to severe storms potentially down here in Baton Rouge, New Orleans. These might not hit severe limits, but they could. And then we start to get into about 5 p.m. Storms dancing around down here in southeast Louisiana could pose a little bit of a flash flooding threat. And they're just literally dancing around. It's almost like they're pop-up, in nature, like a very summer type pattern almost. A light flow, nothing really pushing these storms one way or the other. So if the storms kind of pop up on you, they might drop a whole lot of rain very quick. So just be aware of that. But we get into late in the evening, the overnight hours, things should be able to calm down after that. But taking a look at sort of western, southwestern Texas, Midland, Big Spring, San Angelo, Fort Stockton, etc. 4 p.m., 5 p.m., some storms could begin to develop kind of around or just east of Pecos. I think that's the way you pronounce it. But you start to get into 6 p.m. This is when, if we're going to get any kind of tornado activity, it's probably going to be in this area. And we could very well get some storms in Hobbs, not showing any on this specific run. But we get into 8 p.m., there's one or two powerful storms. Listen, this is just a setup where I think short-range models are probably not going to do the best with. But one or two of these storms could produce all hazards, guys. Storms start to get closer to San Angelo, closer to 9, 10, 11 p.m. But it really just shows one dominant storm, to be honest with you guys. It kind of fires up and around this area and then makes its way east over time. And by the time we're 1, 2, or 3 o'clock in the morning, it's pretty much out of this area. But it really just shows one, maybe two dominant storms. And, we head up to the rest of Texas and Oklahoma here. And 2, 3, 4, 5. Start to get some pop-up activity in the Panhandle here. And then 6, 7. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, these storms don't look that intense, but they very well could be. Lubbock to Childress, Elk City up to Woodard, Amarillo. You got a slight risk in this area for a reason. So these storms could pack a punch. But they don't look that intense on this and not super widespread. But, if anywhere is going to get any kind of thunderstorm activity, it's in that area right into here. And it gets going about mid-afternoon, could last all the way through about midnight. Then I think things begin to somewhat relax after that. And then Kansas, there's a slight risk all the way up into Kansas. But if you look at this specific run, 3, 4, 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., Show some storm activity up closer to Manhattan, but nothing in this area that has a slight risk. Now, one thing I have not looked at, let's see what the NAM is showing in this area for today. All right, maybe it shows something different. We get into about mid-afternoon. This is 5 p.m., 6 p.m. Yes, the NAM, totally different, right? So NAM shows some powerful storms developing in the southern counties of Kansas. You know, it could be Dodge City, Hutchinson, Garden City, Liberal, Wichita, but shows some powerful storms developing in the southern counties. So I think that's why it's good to compare model guides. Unfortunately, you know, these videos would go on for hours if I compared every single bit of short range or global model guidance, but it shows more storm activity. It's getting around 9 p.m. up to Hutchinson, Manhattan, Salina, and all the way up in the northeastern sections of the state. So that's interesting. It makes me want to kind of go back and look at, say, Oklahoma too. Let's see what the NAM shows for this area. Start off around 1 p.m. Yeah, it shows the storms firing in the same general geographical area, but it doesn't show them as intense. The NAM is more intense compared to the HRRR model, which is what you're seeing here. So I think it's important to know that even though I always favor the HRRR model, but all model guidance can fail us, and all model guidance can do very well at some point. You know, I typically favor the HRRR model over the NAM, but in this case, the NAM certainly supports what the Storm Prediction Center is saying more for sure. So the north central U.S., we got energy flying around. Some rain showers are continuing to drift through northern areas of North Dakota, Minnesota throughout the morning, Wisconsin, all the way into the UP. Could get just some sprinkles, some light rain. We got to watch some thunderstorm activity down here, guys, into Iowa, getting into northern areas of Illinois. And then we'll have some more energy that will try to fire maybe in the southern half of Iowa, northern areas of Missouri, into northern Illinois throughout the late evening hours. You know, if we don't get any storm activity, at least some heavy rain will fall in this area. And then by the time we're into tomorrow morning, probably relaxing after that. The western U.S., it's pretty quiet. I mean, the northern areas of Montana, some rain or snow showers, depending on elevation. Could eventually get some snow flying around in the Yellowstone National Park, northwest Wyoming. But outside of that, guys, it's a pretty quiet next 24 hours. Temperatures, I mean, warm all the way up into southern New England, 60s and 70s, warm. You got this pool of cool air, and this is just because of cloud cover and thunderstorms that'll be ongoing across this section right here, the southeast, mid-south, southern Alps. But where you're not getting thunderstorms today across the southeast, it'll be warm, it'll be humid. Certain areas of like central Florida will hit probably into the low 90s. Could even get some low 90 readings across the eastern areas of Georgia and the Carolinas. It'll be warm across the deep south. It'll be humid. It'll feel more like early summer, which supports the thunderstorm activity we're going to see today very well, honestly. Warm across Texas, the western U.S., southwest is pretty warm. The northern Rockies, cooler though. So we got that. But moving forward here, guys, and we're looking at day 2. This is for tomorrow for our Wednesday. I don't want to get my days mixed up. First off, I want you to notice a pretty large area of the country at least has a risk of thunderstorms. Like this area right here is just a general thunderstorm risk. So the southeast, the deep south, I mean, so some of these areas in this kind of light green color could upgrade to a marginal risk. But I honestly think tomorrow's severe weather risk could be more intense than today's severe weather risk across these areas. Now, you don't have as big of a slight risk compared to today, but we do have a level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather, kind of inside the same areas that we have today. Hobbs, it's actually a little bit more into New Mexico, Midland, Lubbock, south of Amarillo, basically western Texas, extreme southeastern New Mexico has that level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather. But check out the marginal risk that extends all the way up into southeastern Wyoming and then pretty much chops off the entire southern half of Nebraska. You guys have a level 1 out of 5 risk of severe weather, almost all of Kansas and all of western Oklahoma, and a good chunk of eastern Colorado. You don't normally see severe weather chances like this in the high plains until more so May and June, even July. So it's definitely more of just a summer pattern for everybody. The more I kind of break this down, the more that screams that to me. It's pretty wild. I mean, it's not super uncommon, just more of a summer type pattern. But Yeah, guys, so got to watch out. Widespread area across the plains for a chance of severe weather, and just a 2% risk of a tornado across pretty much all the southern and central high plains, right in here in this green area. And then the risk of winds. This is the main area, 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour here. And then the hail threats, same area, 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. Now we'll switch it back to this and we'll look at day 3, just a marginal risk, but day 3 could upgrade too. That's just how these setups are. They normally upgrade the day before of the day, but a marginal risk across southern Kansas, areas of Oklahoma, and western Texas, level 1 out of 5. So going between day 4 and day 8. Now, I think day 4, which is day 3, by the way, is Thursday. Day 4, which is what this is, showing nothing, is Friday. Day 5 is Saturday. Day 6 is Sunday. Day 7 is Monday. Day 8 is next Tuesday. So a week from today. Day 4, it doesn't show anything, but we will absolutely have a risk of severe weather across areas of the country, specifically somewhere probably in some of the same areas, probably somewhere into here. There will be some sort of risk of severe weather in this area. And it's the same thing with day 5. I think we'll have the same area, probably a risk of severe weather. And then as we're getting into day 6, which is for this coming Sunday, I think we will have a risk of severe weather also, probably in some of the same regions, but maybe shifting a little bit further east and maybe more so up in this region. And I think that day 6 could be a bigger severe weather day. I wouldn't be surprised if we wake up to, say, a 15% risk for Sunday also, maybe tomorrow. And then we get into day 7. Day 7, we have a severe weather risk in the Midwest, the Central Plains, etc., areas of the upper Midwest. Now, right now, this just means there's a level 2 out of 5 risk at day 7, which is pretty far out, guys. That's next Monday. I mean, yesterday was just this Monday, right? So they're already confident, and I'm going to tell you why they're this confident here in a second. But 15% risk of severe weather, level 2 out of 5. I think that day 6 to day 8 could be bigger severe weather episodes, and specifically the day right in the middle, which is day 7. So we got that. Day 8 doesn't show anything, but I think we'll have severe weather chances probably across the Great Lakes region and maybe areas of the Ohio Valley, Midwest. So now, nerding out with you guys a little bit. This is the 500 millibar flow. Some people call it the mid-level jet, which is what it is. It's the flow at 18,000 feet up in the air. It's really what we look at when we're trying to look for where the forcing, if there's enough forcing mechanism for these storms. It's also something we look at when we're trying to figure out how much wind energy could aid the damaging wind threat with some of these storms. It's basically just the flow. I like to use the word flow a lot. You know, other people out there in the weather community, YouTube world use different terminology for different things. I like to keep the words pretty simple. So I like to call it flow. So this is starting off tomorrow evening. All right. So Wednesday evening. What you'll notice is most of the flow is up here. So we got 55, 60, 65 knots of mid-level flow up here. So about 18,000 feet, winds are going at about interstate speed because this is a knot. So, it's going 75, 80 miles per hour. So, there'll be energy kind of cruising up here, but you're lacking that low-level moisture. Down here, okay, I'm going to circle an area. Down here, we got plenty of moist air. Okay, maybe not as far west as what I drew right here, but plenty of moist air. But you're lacking a lot of flow through here. Yeah, I mean, you have very light flow, but you're lacking a lot of it. Now, there is going to be just enough flow right into here to get severe weather going all the way up into here, actually, for tomorrow. And you can see it here. If you look very closely, if I put my cursor over here, you got 20, 25 knots of mid-level flow right through this area. That'll be just enough oomph in the atmosphere to really get these storms going. Now, just because you don't have flow in the atmosphere, that doesn't mean you can't get thunderstorms to get going, but they're not going to last very long. Nothing's really driving them in the atmosphere to really sustain themselves. And that's why even today, even though I'm looking at tomorrow here, that's why today, when I was breaking down the southeast, if you watch that, it showed those storms popping up and then just kind of dissipating, and they would pop up, not move much. It's because there's not a lot of push in the atmosphere to sustain these storms and to really move them one way or the other. So I put my cursor over this area over the southeast. There'll be a risk of thunderstorms across the southeast tomorrow, but I mean, you only got 8, at most 15, 20 knots of flow in the atmosphere, so there's not a lot of pushing mechanism. Now, I just want you to watch this area right here and why we're going to have day after day of at least marginal severe weather risk. So we're starting to move into Thursday. So this is Thursday evening, right? We're starting to get a little bit more widespread flow across this region. You're starting to see more of that shade of blue. So, but still not a lot of kind of oomph in the atmosphere, if you will, right? Now you see this area starting to creep up on your screen off the coast of California and Mexico. That is an upper trough about to dig through and about to change the game. So still got enough flow, 20, 25, 30 knots of upper level flow here. And as we're starting to move into Friday, an upper trough begins to move through. So a big dip in the jet. And this basically creates a kind of a buckling of the jet stream, which allows for that flow to dig a little bit more aggressively further south. So as we're getting into Friday evening, all right, now we're starting to get a lot more of that mid-level flow right over the southwest. Still not a whole lot because, I mean, you're not going to have super moist air over the southwest. I mean, they southwest for a reason, desert dry air. But this starts to get into this area. So I think we will have some severe weather chances probably, I mean, what this is Friday evening. I would say probably right through this area right in here, most likely. And there's a little bit of flow cruising through this area too, so I wouldn't be surprised with some severe weather chances, maybe across, I mean, areas of the Midwest, the Ohio Valley. We'll just have to see. But watch as we start to get into Saturday. That was Friday. This trough fully digging down to the southwest at this point. Okay, it continues to increase, and then we get into Sunday. All right, so this is Sunday evening. All of a sudden, we get this this exit region of this mid-level jet moving in. So you look at the wind barbs here. If I'm going to circle this area, you see how this wind barb right here is pointing, the flag on it is pointing this way. That means the flow is coming out of that way, out of that direction. So flow's digging down here. Let's use a different color. Flow is digging down here, and then it's shooting across the southwest into the high plains right across the middle of the country. So all of a sudden, okay, now we got this mid-level flow at about 40, 45, 50 knots shooting across the southern high plains. A little bit more intense flow starting to get a little bit further east across the plains, getting closer to that Mississippi River area, but still not a lot in this area. But watch how this entire area fully ejects across the country. Okay, so this trough is what we call a trough ejection. Normally what happens when we get severe weather. And this is Monday. No wonder why, and this is the Euro Ensemble, why we have already a 15% risk of severe weather for Monday. If I said Sunday, I'm sorry. This is for Monday. We have this area of 50 knots plus of mid to upper level flow rumbling right over the middle of the country. We're probably going to have some sort of surface feature that will enhance the low level flow, 850 millibars. I like to talk about that when we get closer. But plenty of flow. This will be overlapping a pretty moist environment that's going to be overspread over a pretty large area of the country. So no wonder why we have a severe weather threat for Monday. And, the GFS Ensemble kind of shows something similar. But as we're starting to get into Tuesday, look at it. It's now stretching across the southern plains, across areas in the Midwest, all the way into the Great Lakes region. So now we have this flow kind of screaming across this entire area. Unfortunately, we do have that ridge now anchored back over the southeast. This will probably keep us rainless, but this will keep probably severe weather chances ongoing across this area, maybe right in here, maybe a little bit further north than what I just drew here. But, this is getting into next Tuesday. We're probably going to have a higher end severe weather day for then too. We just got to figure out the details. But you can tell the difference. Let's back it up, kind of go over it for another 20 seconds or so. You can see the difference between what we're dealing with kind of the rest of this week, right? Like this is Wednesday tomorrow. This is Thursday. Not a whole lot going on in this area. And then this is Friday. This is Saturday. You can see this feature moving in. And then this is Sunday. And then this is Monday. Okay, all of a sudden the screen lights up in the middle. So now that will be overlapping what will already be. We don't even have to spend as much time on this because moist air will be in place for the long run. So we're just getting to that time of year. It's getting into late April, early May. You don't get a lot of beat down of the higher end dew points, the moisture levels for the south. So, this is starting tomorrow. Dew points in the 60s support severe weather, even 50s in some areas, but 60s and 70s. Check it off the box as a thermodynamic moisture to get these severe storms going. Storms love moist air. They don't like dry air. But what you'll notice is as we move into Thursday, as we move into Friday, as we move into Saturday, the moist air, those dews in the 60s, doesn't move around much. Yeah, I mean, it looks like we get some sort of cold front that digs down into the parts of the eastern U.S., and that will probably be the case. But in general, look at the spike in moisture all the way up into the northern sections of the Midwest. And eventually that moisture retakes back over the southeast as we get into around this time next week. But in general, you look at all this, and I'm cruising through the next 10 days, the moist air doesn't really go anywhere. So where will the flow overlap the best moisture at the surface? We're going to figure that out over time. So, and what's wild to me is you back this up is how much moisture. Look at this dry, and it's a dry line setup, which is really what's driving the next few days of severe weather across the southern high plains. I mean, you typically don't have moist air this far west this time of the year. You do at times, but not consistently for days on end. And of course, with the higher end moisture at the surface, you're going to have days of storm fuel. This is storm cape. This is fuel in the atmosphere. You can tell over the next few to several days, it's over the southern plains. But, as we start to get into Sunday, we start to get a spiking of cape values and this storm fuel over 1,000 joules per kilogram, 1,500 joules per kilogram, pretty far north. And then, of course, we get into Monday. And, I mean, even the Euro ensemble is already depicting cape values well over 2,000 joules per kilogram across a pretty large area of the middle of the country. So, I mean, I just think we're going to get a big severe weather event. I don't know if we're going to get a high risk. That's not what I'm saying. I just think we're going to get a higher end threat. Probably next Monday into Tuesday if model guidance continues to show this. And it just looks like we're getting to that time of the year where thunderstorms are a lot more common. So hope that all made sense. I feel like I used the word flow a lot. I feel like I flowed pretty well in that video. So let's back it up. Let's do our Bible. I accidentally stopped my video there instead of stopping the radar. So that's why there's a little pause there in the video. But anyways, let me check timing, make sure we're good. Yeah, we got a few minutes, so we're good to go. So this morning with our Bible devotion, we're in James chapter 1 verse 2 through 4. So James chapter 1 verse 2 through 4. Yeah, I think that's right. Yep. So it says this: "Consider it a great joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you experience various trials, because you know that the testing of your faith produces endurance, and let endurance have its full effect, so that you may be mature and complete, lacking nothing." So I love that. And I think it really speaks on embracing the hard times and knowing that God is going to use those hard times, and more importantly, really allowing God to use those hard times that you're experiencing to really level up your faith, right? He's testing your faith. And, I really think God will use the trials in our lives to test our faith and strengthen our faith. And, rather than view the trials in a negative way, allow it to be used to lean on God so that you can have that spiritual growth. And more importantly, and I speak a lot of this to me, that faith builds your patience. It builds that patience. And I know a lot of us probably struggle with lack of patience. I've mentioned many times in these devotions that is a bit of my kryptonite. And, as your faith increases, your patience increases, to really listen to what God's, say if you're on the fence about something, or you're going through something tough, those trials, right? God's gonna, if you trust in Him more during those times and lean on it, have faith, then you'll know how to handle those things, and you'll be able to get out that valley a little bit more, and approach every negative situation that happens in your life better. So hope that makes sense. God bless all y'all. Appreciate y'all, and stay safe out there and have a wonderful day.